Chapter 1 to 3. Hello everyone, before we start this fanfic. The main question is, what would happen if Raditz came to Earth earlier? The main premise is, Raditz finds himself at a disadvantage when he arrives on Earth, due to a change in Goku's final battle against Piccolo 5 years earlier. Can Raditz find within himself the heroism to join his brother and face Frieza, the androids, and much more? Created by Captain Space. Disclaimer, the idea and characters of Dragon Ball are property of Akira Toriyama. This is a simple non-profit fan parody. Break through the limit. Note from adult me in 2018, I wrote this when I was 16. I don't look back as favorably on its writing quality these days, but plenty of people still love it dearly and it's still very important to me for essentially teaching me how to write and keep to a schedule. So, yeah, read with that in mind I guess. Chapter 1, Demon King. 6, the announcer shouted. It was the final of the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. The audience had fled. The stage lay in ruins. And one contestant, the reincarnated Demon King Piccolo, lay unconscious at the bottom of a crater, half covered in dirt. 7. The other fighter, Son Goku, the world's most powerful martial artist, stood triumphantly over his defeated opponent. Once again, he defied the impossible, overcoming all odds, even surpassed the Guardian of the Earth. He was battered, his training uniform shredded, but the smile never left his face. This was, after all, what he lived for. 8. Goku's friends, standing behind him, all joined in the count, as if this would mean that in some small part, they had helped to defeat Piccolo. 9. The count was almost a formality really, no one expected even the toughest fighter to get up after an attack like that. With blinding speed, Piccolo leapt to his feet, opening his mouth and unleashing a brilliant yellow wave of energy. It shot through the air in an instant, piercing right through Goku's shoulder. Everyone froze in horror, unable to believe their eyes. But their despair lasted only a moment. Goku's image, pierced by the beam, faded and vanished. The warrior had dodged at the last second, leaving an afterimage. Goku suddenly appeared right in front of Piccolo. Nice shot, you almost got me there. He grinned as the green demon took a stumbling step backwards in shock. Let me show you how it's done. Goku drew back a fist. Piccolo lunged forwards, but the battle had worn him out and he was slowing down. Goku slipped through his defenses and rammed a punch into the side of Piccolo's face, putting all of his ki behind it. Goku felt bones crack in his opponent's jaw, and the demon was sent flying. He crashed to the floor several yards away. Hey, announcer. Goku asked, pointing at Piccolo's prone body. Is he out of bounds? Oh. The tournament. The announcer, still clutching his microphone, wiped sweat from his forehead and scurried over to the unconscious competitor. Well, it's hard to tell, there's not much of the ring left, after all, but I'd say. He looked back and forth a bit. Yep. Piccolo is out of bounds. Goku wins the tournament. The group standing behind the stage ran up to the victor, cheering and congratulating him. Nice job, big guy, said Bulma, Goku's oldest friend, patting him on the shoulder. Standing apart from the others, Kami, the Earth's guardian, shook his head in disbelief. Arg! The guttural cry split the air as Piccolo's eyes snapped open. He sat up, one hand holding his aching jaw. You! He stared straight at Goku, who immediately raised his guard. Will you just give up already? The spike-haired fighter asked, moving in front of his friends. Or are you back for more of the same? He tried to focus whatever energy he had left, he knew this monster wouldn't care for the rules of the tournament. Piccolo grunted, standing up slowly and painfully. You, how did you defeat me? I am the great King Piccolo, you are a mere human. You are nothing to me. He snarled. I cannot accept this. This will not stand. I will return, even stronger, and you will suffer. He clenched his fists, shaking slightly as he tried to summon up the strength to fly. He could barely manage that, continuing the fight was out of the question. One of Goku's allies stepped up from behind him, a bald warrior with a third eye in the center of his forehead. What are you talking about? You're not just going to leave. Tien turned to Goku. Finish him. You're the only one who can. Or he'll just return to kill more people. But Goku shook his head. Get out of here, Piccolo. I've beaten you twice already, you should learn when to give up. Fool. Piccolo took off, and within a few seconds he vanished beyond the horizon. Tien shook Goku by the shoulders. Goku. Are you crazy? You heard him, he's just going to come back and do the same again. I'm not so sure. Goku brushed Tien off of him. Ever since he was reincarnated, he hasn't seemed as bad to me. I mean, I haven't actually seen him kill anyone. He shrugged. The first King Piccolo destroyed an entire city. This one seems more angry than evil, really. And besides, if I had the chance to show mercy, and I chose not to, wouldn't that make me just like him? But don't worry about it. I'm sure. Goku was interrupted as Chi-Chi tackled him, embracing her fiancé. Oh Goku, I was so worried. You were fantastic. That was amazing. Let's go get married. We have a house ready and everything, and we'll have kids and a family. And over 100 miles away, Piccolo stood motionless in a vast, empty plain. The anger was building inside of him. It was impossible, a human defeating the almighty demon king at his strongest. It simply went against everything he knew and believed. He couldn't contain it anymore. Piccolo roared his anger to the wind, releasing all his power outwards. A raging storm broke out over the entire continent. Miles away, in East City, windows shattered. Babies woke up screaming. And back on that island, where a group of friends stood, having just witnessed the fate of the world being decided, all felt a chill run down their spines. Primal fears passed over the group, fear from the darkest corners of the mind, fear of nameless things that lurk in the shadows. All but one. One, who stood above the rest. One who was not of this world. His kind had no fear of terrors in the night. Half the galaxy trembled at their name. And soon, so would Earth. 5 years later. Piccolo stood atop a cliff, surveying the devastation around him, a result of his intense training. At first his plan had been to create a devastating new technique, one which would destroy Goku in one attack, but he had since contemplated the speed Goku had dodged his surprise attack with, and the strength he had countered with. Besides, he'd already tried creating a new ultimate technique, and at the budokai, that too had failed. No, to defeat this opponent, he would need to be stronger, faster, and tougher. So he had trained his body into the ultimate fighting machine. He was the most powerful being on the planet, and he would crush his enemy with ease, like stepping on a bug. All of a sudden something caught his attention. I sense a great power, coming closer. He turned to face the approaching Ki slowly. Is it Goku? If so, he's been training harder than I expected. A figure appeared in the sky, flying towards him with incredible speed. No, it's not him, Piccolo muttered to himself. Then who? The approaching figure landed. It was a tall, muscular man with knee-length, untamed hair, wearing strange armor. He had some kind of device over his left eye. You are not Kakarot, he said. And who are you? Piccolo demanded. Do you have business with me? One does not deal with insects, the stranger replied with a grin. One simply crushes them. Piccolo growled. If you're looking to die, keep talking like that. Heh heh heh, quite a temper you have. The visitor said, tapping a button on his device. Power, 536. I wouldn't have thought such a being could exist on this little planet, besides Kakarot, of course. He was visibly taken aback by the reading, but quickly shook off his unease. Still, you're no match for me. What? Piccolo yelled. Do you know who you're talking to? The other snorted. Do I care? There was a long silence. Piccolo stood silent, staring down the stranger, who returned his stare with a smirk. Then, Piccolo smiled back, his confidence returning. You sure think a lot of yourself. He hurled his cape off, and his turban followed. Both hit the ground with a heavy thud. The stranger took a step back, surprised. What? He hissed, incredulous. Why your power, just jumped to 900, WL it makes no difference. You're nothing to me. But Piccolo ignored him. If you won't tell me who you are or where you come from, I'll just have to beat it out of you. He flexed his muscles, settled into a low, wide stance, and gritted his teeth. The wind picked up. Veins throbbed all over his body. HRR. The stranger began to sweat. What is this? What are you doing? Your power level's rising again. Now it's over 1,000. A faint blue glow appeared around Piccolo's body. How are you doing that? Answer me. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. Piccolo relaxed. How do you like me now? He asked, baring his fangs. 1800, even higher than mine. The stranger said, shocked. No, the scouter must be broken. He clenched his fists. It's inconceivable that any being on this world is the equal of a saiyan warrior. Piccolo shifted into a combat-ready stance. Want to test that theory? A vein throbbed on the saiyan's forehead. His eye twitched. You dare to mock me? Prepare to die. He charged straight at Piccolo, but his fist swung at thin air. Piccolo appeared behind him, and landed a kick to the small of his back. The saiyan was sent flying, landing in a heap in the dust. He pulled himself up on one elbow, fear in his eyes. Piccolo stood over him, one hand crackling with energy. This was the first real test he'd had of his new power, and he was delighted. He was dominating an enemy who was many times stronger than he or Goku had been at the World Tournament. I was going to make you tell me who you are, but I don't think I care anymore, he chuckled. Good riddance. Raditz couldn't believe what was happening. Here he was, on this barren little world nobody had heard of, which Kakarot was supposed to have wiped clean of all life, and this green creature was somehow outclassing him. What happened to all that pride you had a minute ago? Piccolo asked, the cruel smile never leaving his face. I know your type. Lording it over lesser beings without ever facing how weak you really are. Those words stung. Raditz had been called many things. Monster. Evil. Heartless. None of them meant anything to him, a warrior who had brought down whole civilizations on his own. But weak? That bit to the core. It brought back too many memories. Laughing saiyans. His own father. Their voices filled his head, overwhelming. To a saiyan warrior, strength was everything. Without it, he was worthless. The saiyan growled, and Piccolo saw something dangerous in his eyes. Then Raditz vanished, and a fist slammed into Piccolo's gut. He staggered back, gasping for air. Raditz pressed his advantage, hammering vicious blows into his enemy. A sweeping kick sent Piccolo flying backwards, and he landed on his feet, skidding a little from the force of the impact. He panted, trying to regain his breath after the unexpected assault. I am not weak. Raditz's chest heaved. His fists trembled. It was made worse by this being the first fight he'd been losing for many years. Piccolo spat out a cracked tooth, then grunted as a new one popped into its place. Touched a nerve, did I? He asked, taking a step forwards. You're just like a child, lashing out at everything that upsets you. Enough. Raditz yelled. I will not stand for this. You will pay for this insult. He thrust his hand out, launching a brilliant beam of red-pink energy that detonated on the ground where Piccolo had been standing. But the demon was already moving. He was darting left and right as he dashed towards Raditz. The saiyan kept firing, sending out a volley of energy blasts, but none connected with their target. Within just a few seconds, Piccolo reached him, and smashed his elbow into Raditz's chest. His armor cracked right in the center, and he stumbled backwards as pain exploded through his body. Ha. He tried to shake off the pain, raising his guard to fend off any more attacks. But just as Piccolo was readying himself for another blow, his eyes widened. He turned to the left, staring off into the sky. Something's coming. He muttered. Just then, Raditz's scouter beeped. He tapped the button, homing in on the detected powers. 2. Combined power level, almost 600. Closing in fast. But somehow this green thing had sensed them too. Could it be that it was possible to detect powers without a scouter? It was probably just a genetic feature, to do with his antenna, perhaps. But who could be coming? On this planet, they were more likely to be enemies than friends. Which meant Raditz's chances were getting even smaller. An unspoken agreement was made, both fighters were curious as to the identity of the newcomers, and besides Raditz needed time to catch his breath. So neither made a move. Soon, 2 dots appeared on the horizon, growing into humanoid shapes, until finally the 2 arrived. One, a bald man with 3 eyes, touched down on the ground, having flown under his own power, and the other, with spiky hair and wearing an orange GI, hopped off of an odd-looking golden cloud which had somehow been carrying him. Raditz stared in shock. Could it be? It was Kakarot. He exclaimed, waving to the one who had ridden the cloud. All grown up, I see. You look just like our father. Huh? Goku asked, scratching his head in bewilderment. Goku, who's this? Tien asked. What's he talking about? I don't know, but he's incredibly strong, and somehow, Piccolo's even stronger. No wonder I sensed this battle all the way from Kame House, you must have felt it, too. Tien nodded. Right. Kaiatsu wanted to come, but I couldn't let him get into something as dangerous as this. What happened here, Kakarot? Raditz asked. Your duty was to exterminate this species. Did this green thing stop you? Piccolo, meanwhile, relaxed. It was only Goku and one of his friends. And, though he was using his weighted clothing to hide his power, Piccolo could tell he had barely improved at all. That was what happened when you settled down and let yourself grow soft. I've had enough of this, he declared. Prepare yourself. And Goku, you're next. In an instant, both he and Raditz disappeared. Goku and Tien swiveled around, desperately trying to keep up as the battle between these two titans accelerated. Craters appeared in the ground. Gusts of wind rushed by as the fighters dashed past them, faster than their senses could follow. After several tense seconds, Raditz and Piccolo reappeared. Piccolo's fist was planted firmly in Raditz's face, and the saiyan flew backwards, spinning in the air from the force of the blow. He landed on his hands and knees, cracking the ground beneath him. Should we do something? Tien asked. Honestly, I don't know who I want to win, I wish I knew who it was Piccolo's fighting, Goku replied. And besides, they're so far above us, I don't think we'd make a difference. Piccolo leapt at Raditz to deliver the finishing blow, but Raditz rolled sideways at the last second. What had appeared to be a furry belt unrolled itself, and Raditz caught Piccolo around the neck with his tail, mid-lunge. He spun around, hurling Piccolo away. Piccolo somersaulted, landing upright, but had trouble keeping his balance after the attack. What the, a tail? Goku stared. Just like I used to have. Raditz nodded. So, now you know who I am. No. What? Raditz was getting exasperated. How could you have forgotten me, or your mission? Did you take a blow to the head, Kakarot? You keep saying that name. Goku scowled at him. My name is Son Goku. You're insane. It must be the result of brain damage. Goku rubbed his head. Okay, fine. I did hit my head, but I barely remember, I was a baby back then. Damn it all, that would explain it. Raditz clenched his fists. Then you probably don't remember that you are not from this planet. You are a saiyan, part of a great warrior race. He indicated himself. And I am Raditz, your older brother. No way. Tien whispered. Goku's an alien. Take it back. Goku growled. If I'm one of these saiyans, why am I here? Well, you may not like the answer. Raditz grinned. We saiyans are in the planet trade business. We locate suitable planets and sell them to rich customers. But first, of course, we must exterminate the native inhabitants. Adult saiyans like me are assigned to the most difficult worlds, with the toughest inhabitants. But first, for practice, our infants are sent to depopulate the weaker worlds, like this one. Or so we thought, anyway. He glanced over at Piccolo, who was still coughing and clutching at his throat. Say, who is that, anyway? I had no idea the inhabitants of this planet could grow so strong. Goku looked shaken. That's, Piccolo. I'm not even sure if he's from this planet, but that's not the point. He took a step forwards, discarding his weighted wristbands. You're telling me that my mission was to kill all the humans living here? I'd never do something like that. It's just plain wrong. He stepped out of his shoes and slipped his undershirt off too, removing all his weighted clothing. Getting serious, Goku? Tien asked. Even at my best, I don't think I'm a match for them, Goku said, flexing and stretching, but I don't think there's a good guy here. I need every advantage I can get, no matter which one wins. Raditz frowned. So, you really are brain damaged, irritating. But I'm not leaving without you. I suppose you've forgotten that our homeworld, planet Vegeta, was destroyed by a meteor. Our entire race was wiped out, all but 4, you included. We 3 recently found a planet that would fetch an excellent price on the galactic market. However, the locals are powerful, even 3 of us might struggle to conquer it. But 4? Well, it's a good thing I remembered you. And while your power isn't exactly impressive, he tapped his scouter again, even with that increase, it's only just over 400, I'm sure, given some real training, you'd be in good enough shape to help us. I told you, I'd never kill innocent people. Goku shouted. Get it through your head. I'm not this Kakarote anymore. I'm Son Goku, leave my planet alone. Raditz was about to reply when Piccolo, having recovered, kicked him in the side. The pair of them immediately resumed fighting, each blow resonating through the ground and shaking Goku and Tien to the core. Now that's some serious power. Tien exclaimed. Raditz swung a quick jab, which Piccolo blocked with his forearm, sidestepping and countering with his elbow. Raditz ducked under it and jumped up towards Piccolo, who smashed his knee into Raditz's face. He followed up with a flurry of punches and kicks, then jumped away to avoid Raditz's clumsy counterattack. He vanished, appeared again in time to punch Raditz in the exact same spot on his face, then retreated again, skidding to a halt several meters away. Raditz shifted to face Piccolo, trying to stand upright. Damn you, I come all this way to this planet, and instead of my brother, I get you, you damn irritating freak. And then when Kakarote does turn up, he's brain-addled and in no fit state to help me win. It's like the whole universe has it in for me today. Piccolo laughed out loud. Don't be foolish. You're blaming your own failure on luck now. He raised his guard, assuming a combat stance. You're simply outmatched. I'm stronger than you, faster than you, and even with your armor, it's clear you can't stand up to as much punishment as I can. My energy manipulation is superior to yours, you rely on that silly gadget to sense energy, you're arrogant beyond belief, and if all that wasn't enough, I know your mental weak spot. Raditz snarled, shaking slightly. Piccolo grinned. Isn't that right, you pathetic weakling? Raditz roared, a faint purple aura flickering to life around him, and launched himself at Piccolo. Raditz hurled himself at Piccolo, screaming with rage. The battle, it could be said, was not going his way. Piccolo jumped over Raditz, who stumbled as he tried to recover his balance, then grunted in pain as he felt the impact of Piccolo's foot on the back of his head. He shook off the throbbing pain and swung himself around, his fist swinging for Piccolo. But the demon smiled and raised a hand, palm forwards, firing a beam of energy which exploded on contact, sending Raditz tumbling backwards. Raditz stopped himself in midair, breathing heavily, and charged again, blind to the consequences. Every hit he took just made him madder and less likely to try and strategize. He launched a mad rain of punches and kicks, and Piccolo dodged left and right, walking slowly backwards as Raditz's fury worsened his aim. After several seconds, Piccolo got bored, and elbowed Raditz in the neck. He followed up with a punch to the stomach, and Raditz doubled over, gasping for breath. Piccolo kicked him away, then dashed around behind him before he could hit the floor, stopping Raditz's fall with his fist. They hung there, in midair, until Piccolo threw Raditz to the floor. The saiyan groaned, trying to stand, but failing. Piccolo turned to Goku and Tien, who were watching in horror. I'll finish him in a minute, he said, striding towards them. They readied themselves for a fight they knew they couldn't win. I've been waiting to fight you for 5 years, so this supposed brother of yours can wait. The ground shook as Piccolo focused his energy, preparing to charge the duo. Suddenly, he saw movement out of the corner of his eye. He tried to turn around, but wasn't quick enough. Raditz had leapt up from behind, wrapping one arm around Piccolo's waist and the other around his neck. Never turn your back on your opponent. Raditz hissed. Especially if they belong to the deadliest warrior race in the universe. He threw Piccolo over his shoulder, then as he crashed to the ground, Raditz landed on top of him, driving his knee into Piccolo's back. He grabbed Piccolo's head in both hands and started slamming it into the ground. The third time, Piccolo lashed out with a fist, then as Raditz flinched away, he took the opportunity to jump to his feet. Raditz started hurling ki blasts his way, and Piccolo was hard-pressed to knock them all away. As the barrage continued, he kicked off the ground, and from several feet in the air, charged a huge ball of energy. Oh, that can't be good, Raditz muttered, then started running as Piccolo released it, smiling gleefully. He flew into the air, lifting his legs clear as the ball flew under him. Look out! Goku yelled. He and Tien fled, as the ball touched the ground, detonating with amazing force. Raditz glanced down at the crater. Too close, he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Then Piccolo appeared in front of him, and punched him to the ground. Raditz landed in a crumpled heap, twitching slightly as he struggled to move his battered body. No, I can't be defeated, like this. His fingers dug into the dirt, and he raised his head, straining himself to try and get up. Piccolo floated to the ground in front of him. Still trying to fight, eh? You're determined, I'll give you that. He cracked his knuckles. But you have to realize there's no way you can win. Oh, and thanks for the advice, I'll finish you right now, just to be sure. He prepared to stamp down on Raditz's neck, when something collided with his face. Ag! Piccolo staggered back, raising his guard. What the? Goku stood between him and Raditz, a grim look on his face. With a chill, Piccolo realized he'd seen this look before, in the memories he'd inherited from his father. This was Goku's face before he'd killed the original King Piccolo. You stay away from my brother, Goku said, preparing himself for what was to come. Kakarot? Raditz rasped, words coming slowly. Why? You rejected me, you said you'd never join me. Why are you helping me? Because you're family, the younger scion replied. And besides, Piccolo's a bigger threat than you. Piccolo frowned. What do you think you can do, Goku? You've seen my power. Not even this Raditz can stand up to me. What chance do you have? Goku charged, completely fearless. I don't care how powerful you are. You have to be stopped. You're welcome to try. Piccolo yelled. Goku had almost reached Piccolo, when he raised his hands to either side of his head. Raditz, I'll buy you time to recover. Solar flare, he shouted. Piccolo recognized the technique a fraction of a second ahead, and turned to face the opposite direction, shielding his eyes from the blinding flash. You think that'll work? I know that trick. Piccolo was interrupted as he saw Tien, standing in the same pose behind him. Solar flare. Tien repeated. Piccolo hadn't expected it a second time, and this time he was blinded. Ah! My eyes! Damn you! His eyes burned unbearably, and he clutched at them, howling in pain. Now, Goku! Said Tien, jumping over to stand next to Goku. Goku cupped his hands at his side, focusing all his ki, as Tien raised his hands in front of him, forming a triangle, and tapped into his life force for power. Me. Terra beam. Che. They shouted in unison, as twin beams, bright blue and yellow, burst forth and crashed into Piccolo, sending out shockwaves for miles around. Raditz, struggling to his feet, stared, wide-eyed. What the? They can focus their energy into one point, their combined power is over 1,000. A new determination came over him, and he stood up straight, shaking slightly. I am a scion warrior, and I will not be beaten by this green creature. My amnesiac, ill-trained, long-lost brother can stand up to fight. He clenched his fists. Why shouldn't I? He started taking steps forward, becoming more confident with each step. Kakarot. Stand aside. Huh? Goku looked around, seeing his brother on his feet. Raditz. You okay? Before Raditz could respond, Piccolo appeared out of the dust cloud, looking a little worse for wear. He kicked Goku to the ground with ease, and batted Tien aside with the back of his hand. The game is over. Piccolo snarled, charging energy around both hands. Go ahead and try to dodge. He smirked. If you don't think you're strong enough to survive it, that is. What? Are you deaf? I am part of the most powerful race in the universe. Are you still calling me weak? No, Raditz. Goku shouted, but Piccolo stamped down on his back. Don't act. Don't listen to him. Get out of the way. Bring it on. Raditz yelled. I can take anything you can throw at me. Let's find out. Piccolo brought his hands together, launching an almost pure white ki beam. Raditz stood firm in its path as it lanced towards him. There was yet another explosion as the beam hit home, drowning everything out in a burst of light and sound. Goku stared in horror. Raditz had played right into Piccolo's hands, letting his emotions get the better of him again. And, trapped under Piccolo's foot, Goku couldn't do anything to help him. The dust began to clear. Someone was standing there. But, Goku squinted to see through the smoke. It didn't seem right. The outline was different. The smoke blew away, revealing Tien, who stood in front of Raditz with his arms crossed in front of his face, shielding him from the attack. What? No way. Damn him. Piccolo was breathing hard. These energy attacks have drained my power, and Raditz is still alive. Tien gasped as his strength failed, and fell backwards. Raditz caught him. Why? He asked, not understanding. Why would you do something like this for me? You know I'm the enemy of your whole species. He was shocked. His brother saving him was one thing, but this earthling. Tien smiled, coughing up blood. Because, you're Goku's brother, he's the best guy I know, so, you can't be all bad, right? His body convulsed, and his eyes closed. Tien. Goku yelled, reaching out a hand in his friend's direction. Hold on. Don't give up. It's too late, Kakarot, Raditz said quietly. He's gone. He laid Tien down on the ground, then stood up, turning to face Piccolo. That was a powerful attack, it must have severely drained you. He shifted slowly into a fighting stance. Foolish as it was, Kakarot's friend's courage has finally given me the opportunity to end this battle. It's gone on too long already. Piccolo kicked Goku away, then glared at Raditz. Both of them were injured, blood dripping from small cuts, bruises and scrapes all over their body, clothing torn and armor cracked. It was anyone's guess if Piccolo was still stronger. Raditz launched himself forwards, colliding with Piccolo, and they locked hands, pushing against each other. They struggled, forcing all of their power forwards, digging craters with their feet, veins popping out on their foreheads. Piccolo began to push forward, his crackling energy threatening to overwhelm Raditz. Raditz's knees began to bend, and he was forced down and back. Piccolo started to crush his hands, and small flares of energy bit at Raditz's skin. Images started to flash by in his mind, as his eyes closed, almost resigned to his fate. Saiyans laughing at him. His father, dismissing him. Were they right? He was too weak to save himself. He deserved this. Unexpectedly, the images continued, now different. Kakarot, coming to his aid. The Earthling, sacrificing his life. His father, Bardock, again. But now he realized. He saw the look on Bardock's face for what it was, a challenge. The other Saiyans would only be right if he lost. Raditz's eyes snapped open wide. He gritted his teeth, forcing his way to his feet. He reached deep within, finding reserves he never knew he had. Piccolo scowled at him, unable to understand. You can't win. Raditz shouted, pushing with all his strength, sending Piccolo flying back with a wave of pure force. The demon tumbled through the air, mind reeling, bones shattered. This time, when he hit the floor, he didn't get up. Silence fell. Raditz took a deep breath. It's over. He lurched forward, step by painful step, coming to a halt in front of Piccolo's prone body. Slowly, he raised a hand. I won't make the mistake you did. A battle is not won until you have crushed the life from your enemy. Before he could strike the final blow, he felt a hand on his shoulder. Stop, Goku ordered him. The dangerous look was back in his eyes. What? Kakarot, are you out of your mind? Raditz spluttered. Nobody else is dying today. Goku stood firm. I won't let you kill him. I don't want to have to use force, but if I did, you don't have enough energy left to fight back. Raditz stood there for an agonizingly long time. Finally, he lowered his hand. Damn you, Kakarot. This world, it's made you soft. He killed your friend. Don't you care? Of course I do. But on Earth we have these things called Dragon Balls. We can use them to grant any wish, like bringing the dead back to life. You could have any wish. You could be immortal. You could have unlimited power, and you only think of him. Raditz asked, shocked. Seemingly from nowhere, a harsh voice spoke. Any wish, you say? Immortality? Unlimited power? It chuckled, and Goku realized it was coming from Raditz's scouter. I like the sound of that. Raditz gulped. Vegeta. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/saiyajin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Yamatancho. Yuki. Search 1301. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.